Day 6 of the June 99 7-day retreat in Springwater. Yesterday evening, sort of in the thick of a group meeting, I can't recall right now what it was we were discussing, looking at. Somebody asked, does it really matter whether we wake up or not? This morning, taking a walk, this most beautiful of all mornings, it seemed, warm and cool at the same time, such gentleness in the air, the birds, the wet grasses and the soggy shoes, passing the pond, the croaking pond, with these little skimmers crisscrossing and leaving their ever so delicate tracks. On the big upper field, a deer grazing and looking up, and looking back, and looking at each other. Then walking on, and the tail just twitched a little bit, and then browsing again. It didn't move away. But I had to look first. The color-dotted, blooming grasses up there. Fragrance of roses in the air. If you had walked along on this walk this morning, we would have both laughed at this question. The question was, does it really matter whether we wake up or not? Maybe if you were caught up in worry or anger, resentment, frustration, then you wouldn't have laughed. But I'm pretty sure we would have laughed together. We have so many questions. Whence do they arise? What do they come out of? The popular way of asking these days is, where are you coming from? Where am I coming from with this question? That's a good question, because it moves away from projecting an answer or looking for an answer out there to what arouses the question in the first place. The question that also came up in a meeting, is there such a thing as ultimate, complete, total enlightenment? Implied in that question, if so, can I get it? So, we can talk about whether there is or not, and then we quote others and cite those who we think had it, or who claim they did. But where's our question coming from? And that can be an interesting dialogue or monologue, looking for oneself. Where does this wondering about complete total enlightenment and wanting it arise from? And without wanting to generalize for everyone, that is never meant, even though I may talk as though I did, isn't it mostly our deep inner discontent with ourselves, with others, with the world? Or we can't even say with what? Discontent, dissatisfaction, a feeling of inner hollowness, emptiness, not the emptiness of space and no division, but feeling hollowed out, nothing of substance, nothing of value in there. Loneliness, feeling cut off from people, alienated. Fear of abandonment or feeling abandoned, unloved. All of these things operating in human beings. At the present time, I don't know whether they did thousands of years ago, that's past. Right now, this operates in human beings. And out of that, the desire to fill that hollowness, to satisfy the discontent, not to feel lonely anymore, to associate, to believe, to belong, create things in fantasy. Anything to alleviate this inner pain, which it turns out, if one becomes increasingly observant, is not alleviated by our conventional ways of going about it, materialistically or spiritually. By spiritually, I mean trying to find religions that satisfy, belief systems that give us some security, some support. That's not so for everyone. A lot of people do find support in religious systems. We're not being judgmental about it, we're just looking at where our question comes from for total, complete enlightenment. The ever-doubting discursive mind, capable of throwing up doubtful statements or questions at any time. Maybe one finds oneself in a retreat, in a quiet spot. It feels whole, it doesn't feel divided. Some people say it's blissful, or it's a thrill. Somebody said it was a real thrill. And then the brain throwing up a question. Will this last? Is it real? Is this the whole thing? Is there more? This can't be enough. Which isn't enough, because it already comes out of this divided, divisive mind that thinks it can solve fundamental things by thinking and projecting. It can throw doubt on a moment of openness and freedom by saying, oh, you just deceived yourself. And is that thought stronger? Does it override this living presence of being here, unencumbered, and seeing thought for thought with its mischievous ways of clouding or seemingly clouding clarity? So, is it our task to find out whether there's really complete, total enlightenment as the Buddha proclaimed when he supposedly, according to the writings which were written down hundreds of years later. But I've always liked this one statement: I've attained nothing from complete, total enlightenment, and that's why it's called complete, total enlightenment. Attained nothing. No attainer. That spaceless space. No one occupying it, and yet alive with presence. Living and dying. Dying to all the stuff that's held on to about myself. What I am, what I will be or could be or haven't been or have been. Can we view that, begin with this, rather than lurch out toward something promised or imagined in the future which does not exist except in thought? Do we see that right now? Right now I'm sitting here, open windows, bright sunshine, all kinds of twitterings and breathings. Caw, caw, caw. Sensations in the body, and beholding it all, can one see that the thought of something more or complete, total enlightenment, or whatever this may formulate itself, is a formulation? Right now, can we see that? Can that be clear? At this moment of presence? Of course, you could say, if this is the mind state, I don't know whether it's only imagination, because it may really exist. That's what I want to find out, whether it really is attainable. Well, if there is this doubt and the urge to go for it, then one goes for it. There's a saying in German: Reisende Leute soll man nicht aufhalten. Don't stop people who are traveling. Or don't detain them. We can wake up in the middle of a train, maybe. So the question really is, and I'm not saying that the person or the people who brought this question up are searching for complete enlightenment. It was an interesting question to look at again in a new way. So don't feel misunderstood. We'll discuss it further, anytime. And go so deep that we don't anymore know what enlightenment and unenlightenment is. Leaving behind the conceptual world in this listening, looking, diving, delving deeply without knowing. But what I meant to say here is, if one is occupied with wanting something out of this inner hollowness, loneliness, pain of separation, pain of the emotions that are so powerful for human beings, I really carry a tremendous burden with this sensitive body, mind, full of memories, full of connections, full of pain-producing or tension-producing movements of organs and muscles. What is all that? What is the loneliness? What is the hollowness and inner feeling of insufficiency? At times we go out and try to fill it. The movies, the acquisitions, the good company. It may not even be to fill something, just enjoyment of it. But at times, in retreating, can we stay with this pain without calling it pain anymore, without calling it insufficiency. Let the words fly like dandelion seeds. And stay with what is here, not budging. Not looking for something, but staying with what is here without knowing it, without trying to do something for it or against it. Just this quiet attendance. Not I'm attentive. That's an image, and that needs to be seen in the process. To see the images that create themselves in an amazing manner. What I'm doing, what I am, and holding on to that. One is let go and the next one arises. I'm a letter goer. to become transparent, which happens with sitting that isn't sitting. Not just sitting. You are sitting while you're walking, meaning being with what's there. But the best way for being with this discontent, pain, agony of who we are or who they are, and not move away or toward, just be there with this whole 9 yards. This is what somebody asked last night. Now it comes back. One of the questions. Sitting with, observing, thoughts coming up, emotions triggered, the physicalness of these emotions being with the physicalness of it, and more thoughts generated, arising, and what they trigger, and on, being with this whole process. Is there something more, or is that all? It didn't sound like a question that was asking for more. It was rather, I don't know. I'd have to sort it out. It doesn't matter. And later on, the same person reported, and I don't know whether I can all reproduce it. Waking up from a horrendous nightmare, which at the moment of waking up, and we all know that, one doesn't know, is this real? Maybe it is. Maybe it's not. So this in-between transitory state, which is tremendously, beautifully revealing how real dreams are, or seem to be. But then, again, this is reported by several people, waking up from a dream, night dream, daydream, and just beholding it, seeing it, sort of dispassionately. And the thing abating in this seeing. This happens to people very often in retreats. The surface controlling mind lets up its controls, its resistances, and what we call the unconscious mind throwing up its stuff. Violent, nightmarish, pleasurable, scary, whatever. The question remains, can we behold it all dispassionately? Meaning, no need to take a position, take a stand, do something. Let it come up, let it reveal itself, show itself, and show itself for what it really is. It's a dream. Consciousness material from the past, remembered, agonized over, scary as the deuce, if it's not seen for what it is. And the fear that it arouses can be part of this beholding. Not giving way to a thought, well, shouldn't I by now on day 6 or after 50 years of retreating be free from fear? I remember Krishnamurti in the tent there one time in Zan, and my sister, I had gotten my sister to come down. We were living about half an hour hike above Zan, and that's where they have a place. And hesitatingly she came down. Sister used to be a psychoanalyst. And I thought the talk was terrific. And Krishnamurti, as he often said, you can read it in his book, said, when we leave this tent, there is not going to be any more fear, and it'll never come back. Something like that. He loved to say those things. And my sister was furious. Very, very angry at this way of talking and at his way of dealing with fear, which she knew better what it was based on and so forth. She never went back. She's not ever interested in that again. And her husband said, he's just telling what's obvious to everybody. But he was cynical about it. Oh, that's a German expression. Well, doesn't matter. So, coming back to when fear arises, here it is. Don't call it anything. Don't have an opinion about it or a stand for or against it. It goes with this living in our ordinary self-centered consciousness with what we call its unconsciousness. Unconscious just means we're not aware of it. Those dreams you're having are no longer unconscious, they're conscious now. But yet it's dream material, image material, which can arouse tremendous agitation, which is all part of human consciousness. Self-centered, me in the middle of it, me and mine and what I'm identified with, totally or partly. And then somebody says, is that all there is? Watching this stuff come up. I don't want to just spend the rest of my meditative life watching the garbage. That rings true, doesn't it? But see, the important thing, the significant thing is not the garbage, but the watching. The quality of watching. This is what the person says, is this all there is, watching this coming and going of thoughts, emotions, and this whole kit and caboodle? It all depends on the quality of the watching. The watching can be part of this thinking and judging and guilting feeling ashamed that one is still like this and wanting to be better. It's all part and parcel of this self-centered consciousness. But there is a watching or an awareing. Like awareing better, watching implies the watcher. And very often one feels, yes, there is a watcher. There is a, maybe just a shadow of judgment or meanness positioned. And not to fault that, but to behold it. Step back of it. Take it all in. Let it be there. In an awareing that is not self-centered. If you say, well, is that possible? It's just a pipe dream, it's an illusion. I say, no, it is not. It's not an illusion. It's possible. And it happens to human beings like you and me. A beholding that is unself-centered and therefore whole, not apart. Me and the stuff I'm watching. Now, if the mind comes in with its thoughts, well, is that it, what you just described? Watch it. See that thought as a thought. And what it can do or has already done, divided the world into right and wrong, good and bad. You cannot formulate what is beyond all formulation. We try to do it, and it has a certain function in communication. If there is flexibility with the formulation, that when you say, to me, I don't see it this way, I don't understand your words, or is this what you mean? I'm not bowled over. The looking remains, and new words may come up to see if they better express what cannot be expressed in words. This present moment of no thingness, apparently filled with the 10,000 things affecting us, affecting each other, causing pain and pleasure, and yet so effervescent. Here this moment, gone the next. That's within the experience of all of us. And is the beholding, the awareing, clouded up with self-centered thinking? It's not said judgmentally, it's said factually. And if it can be seen, then there is the seeing again, which one gets the feeling when it's temporarily obscured, like by a cloud of self-centered worry, and then seen as a cloud. That seeing was there even during the time of cloudedness. One can tell when it is there without the cloud. Something hadn't left. I'm not making this as a dogmatic statement, but as something that is experienceable. You may have had the same experience. And then no need to become dogmatic and say awareness is always there as a statement. Is it there really now? And even though doubts may obscure it momentarily, it's here again, it's here again. not bother one's heads about it. Do I have it? Could I have it? But to stick with what's here, visible, palpable, beholdable, wondering about our amazing way of living from moment to moment, alone and in relationship. And maybe occasionally a walk through the fields and woods with the sheer joy of it, the love of it, without making a big deal of it. Are we here? We will end here for today.